So I did domain 2.2, which is engaging students in the classroom, and I'm just going to talk about a few things that I feel like I really learned from this or that I'm going to take away or what's most important to me to make sure that I try in my classroom after going through and working through this module. I think one of the key concepts that I've taken away from this is that engagement is a lot of trial and error. You're not going to normally find something that's going to engage every single student in your class, and that's okay as long as you continue to try and make sure that you try to hit those kids that tend to be harder to engage. And I feel like I've gotten a lot of new strategies and some new things that I can try once the kids come back from break, which is kind of exciting to think that I might have a way to reach some of those kids that have been hard to reach in the past. It's not always the easiest thing, I think, especially as educators, to know that something's not going to work or not go to according to plan, because we're planners, we're organizers, that's kind of what we do. So it's kind of one of those things where you have to step into the role of the student and it be okay for you to fail and be okay to make mistakes, and you just have to learn from those mistakes and move on. Differentiation always comes up whenever we talk about engagement, and before I was here at Yorktown, I actually taught at Westell, and I did Title I, and so I always felt like differentiation would have been one of my strong suits because that's what I did for a living. I worked with those low kids, and they were obviously different variations of low, and we got to do a lot of things and work a lot of one-on-one time and do some kind of specialized things. And so I was really excited to get here and have my own classroom and reach those kids that I know had a hard time in the past. And then I got here and I ended up having a high ability cluster in my room, which was completely out of my comfort zone and really kind of pushed me, I feel like, as an educator and especially as a first-year teacher having my first classroom. And I feel like at the time, I felt like I was doing all that I could for those kids. And the more the years went on and the more that I've talked to people, and especially working through this module, I realized that I was doing a lot of quantity of work, not so much quality of work. So I feel like that's definitely something that I can be working on, and that this module has kind of inspired me to do. It's given me some really good ideas for stretching those kids and not just giving them extra work or giving them harder work, but giving them quality work and work that they're really going to be proud of and something that they're really going to want to try and that they can share with others that can help others as well. So I feel like I got some good strategies, some good ideas coming from here, and understanding not just what those kids need, but also stretching my low kids in a different way too, and not just giving them the tools to catch up, but also making them feel like they're successful and stretching them beyond what they think that they could do too. One of the things that I've always tried to do in my classroom was something that came up quite often while I was working through this module, was talking about engaging students through movement. And I feel like that's something that we do a lot in my class. We have 30 kids, and we kind of live in tight quarters here, so I feel like I try to give them the opportunity to move as much as possible. I know we normally think of kindergartners or younger students when we think about movement and incorporating that in certain aspects of the day, but I feel like no matter what age, even me as an adult, I need the chance to move to be able to do things. And I also feel like it really kind of helps you connect to whatever you're learning if you can be doing something besides just sitting in a chair and staring at a screen. I even remember in college taking notes and just thinking it was, the most boring thing, and I couldn't imagine thinking that as an 11-year-old or a 5th grader. I'm sure it's just painful sometimes sitting there and having nothing else to do. So I feel like kind of using out-of-the-box methods besides just the type of work that they're doing, but finding ways to engage those students that tend to be more physical or just need to kind of let off some steam during the day, especially the kids that tend to be a little bit lower. I think this really helps because it gives them a chance to focus on something besides the work, because I know sometimes the work can be overwhelming. We do a lot in 5th grade, and so the idea of just to get up and have a break and to do something other than just sitting and staring at the screen is always great. So I feel like I learned a little bit more while working through this domain, but it was also kind of a little bit of a reassurance to be able to know that I was already doing something that was really helping the students retain information and just to feel better about what they were learning and to understand what they were learning on a different level. I feel like the Technology, when it comes to engagement, is a blessing and a curse, especially being with the fifth graders and having access to the iPads all the time. I feel like there are some days where they've been great and we've been able to create some really, really cool projects. Being able to use Canvas has been wonderful. The kids getting used to the Google apps, I feel like, is going to be great for them, especially as they move on to middle school and high school. And even to college, I feel like those skills are things that are going to really be a benefit to them. I also feel like it can be a curse at times because the engagement can swing the other way. Instead of being engaged in what we're talking about in class and the skills that we're working on, it can also take the students' engagement into just games or watching videos. So I feel like when we talked about SAMR and when we talked about how to use tech for engagement in the right way, I feel like it's helped me to be able to kind of examine what I've used the iPads for in the past and understand which things were time savers, which were things that were just substitution, what's actually helping to keep them engaged, what's actually stretching them and growing them and giving them skills that they can use as they get older rather than just to kind of keep them occupied at the time. Because I will admit, having 30 students, there are some times where it's just nice to have something to keep them occupied while I work with a small group. So being able to understand the difference between what's helping to keep them engaged to stretch their learning and what's just helping to keep them engaged for the moment, and how I can improve my relationship with technology in the classroom. I feel like that's I've gotten some good tips and I've got a good jumping off point. I feel like Domain 2.2 and engaging students in the classroom was probably the best one that I could have picked for me personally and as a first-year teacher. I feel like it's given me a lot of really good strategies to start the last 9 weeks off with. I know that coming back from spring break is always tough. Attention kind of starts to slip as it starts to get nicer out. So I feel like this is the perfect time of year to try some of those strategies and see what ones work and what doesn't work, and to just kind of give myself the leeway to try some new things and see, gauge the students' reactions, see how it goes, and hopefully find some things that really work well on some of my students that I'm kind of struggling to keep engaged now, whether they're lower students that I'm struggling with or even the students that are higher that I kind of want to push to the next level. So I feel like I really got some good ideas and some good strategies. I'm really excited to see the feedback that I get from some of my other colleagues that I know are working on the same thing, and even the people that are working on different modules, just to kind of get some of their feedback and try to incorporate that in my instruction is exciting. So I feel like that's, in a nutshell, most of the things that I learned about engaging students in the classroom, and that's it.